Hello and welcome. Thank you for taking the time out to join me. I am so appreciative of the time. I know your time is your most valuable asset, so I really do appreciate that you take this time out. We are getting together today for day 2 of the Creative Recruiting Bootcamp, and today we're really going to focus a lot on standing out from the crowd. And I'm sorry, my notes are over here, so if you guys see me looking over here, just don't want to leave anything out. Speaking of not leaving anything out, we got a lot of questions yesterday about the workbook. So make sure you have a workbook. It is very important. We're going to go over some of those questions today that we talked about yesterday. I changed things up a little bit in the order that I do things because I really just want to make sure the content is informative and not boring. So sometimes as a trainer, we have to kind of change things up a little bit because I want to keep you entertained. I want to make sure that this training doesn't put you to sleep. There's no way of sugarcoating it. I've been through those trainings where the content is awesome, but it's just so boring to get through, right? So I just changed things up a little bit to try and keep it a little bit more interesting and usable for you. So I will go through that. I think changing up the order of things kind of confuses some people because it doesn't follow the sequence of the workbook. So we'll specifically go over that today. But before I do that, let me introduce myself. My name is Evelyn Knight. I am the founder and CEO of Child Care Business Professionals. I founded this company because I was once upon a time an owner that had an eviction notice on my center's door, and it was so hard, so hard. The things that I'm teaching you are the things I learned to pull out of that time of my life, to just get my life back. I was once upon a time an owner that I feel like I was married to my center and I never had time for my own family. So when I realized the problem was that I just didn't know how to be a leader, I changed everything. I just changed how I looked at things. I changed my perspective, and I really just changed everything about how I approach this work. And now I bring it to you. I'm also a child care center owner, and as an owner, my center is the incubator for all the things that I teach you here. So I live it, breathe it, just like you. I also have a podcast, the Child Care Business Coach podcast, so make sure you listen to that. Speaking of the podcast, I did a couple episodes specifically on recruiting. I'm not going to repeat that information during this time of the series because you can go and listen to those episodes. I highly recommend that you go back and listen to those episodes because it is all going to tie into what I'm teaching you. So if one of my team members, if you guys could just put in the comments the link to the last 2 episodes, that would be great. Those are the 2 episodes that I really dive in to the mindset, which mindset is hugely important if you're going to be successful, which is why you want to make sure if you missed yesterday's recording, you want to watch that too. Understanding where everybody is coming from in today's culture is very, very important. So speaking of that, I'm going to go over the workbook from yesterday really quick, and then we'll dive into the content for today. So the first thing I asked is, where has the work ethic gone? I talked to you guys a little bit about what is going on with the current workforce. So the information I told you about that, where when we think about the fact that we've just raised an entire generation of children who have no accountability, that is where I'm going with that one. The next one is, how has COVID or why has COVID made it worse? Well, one thing I didn't touch on yesterday is this pandemic has created a global trauma condition that we all suffer from. Trauma is so hard on the human brain as it is. And now we're suffering from a collective trauma. But it also realigned our priorities, right? It also realigned what is important to us. So not only are we dealing now with collective trauma and the side effects that happen with that, but we've also come into this society where people are satisfied with less, which I talked a lot about that yesterday as well. So the other thing is, there's thousands of jobs. That's where I started, right? And this is where I think I threw people off. If I told you guys about the Starbucks versus Dutch Bros analogy, well, we're competing with 1,000 other job opportunities out there. And it's just, we're getting mixed in with that and we're being lost in the mix, right? And today we're going to dive into that a lot. How can we stand out? That is something we're really going to do a lot of talking about today. And So the next one is there is hope. I know it sounds really hard, and when you really put all the whys in there and you look at the Great Recession and everything we're dealing with, it's scary. And we think to ourselves, there's no way I'm going to be able to get this done. It's just too much right now. But knowing that the people do not choose their jobs based on money is very important for our industry. The number one reason people stay with a job and look for a job, according to a lot of studies, there's several studies that have been done on this, is that they want to know that they're making some kind of a difference. Of course, it's important for them to provide for their family, but the most important thing is knowing they're making some kind of impact on the world, right? And what better industry to be in than early childhood education to make an impact on the world? We literally impact the world all the time. So that is a huge one. The other thing is appreciation. Employees are looking to be appreciated. So there is so much we can do when it comes to that, right? We can provide them with a place where they're making real change and real difference, and we can appreciate them. We can do those things. Those are some things that we can do. Like I said yesterday, we are primed for a revolution right now in our atmosphere, and we are primed for us to really just step into these roles as leaders and just run with it, right? But we have to step in. We've got to stop with these old narratives that we don't pay enough, that we're just not enough, we're not seen as a profession. What we tell ourselves is what is, right? So now we have to look at what we can be. And it is time for us to band together for the ECE revolution. So some other reminders really quick. We are streaming this live on YouTube and LinkedIn as well. So if Facebook isn't normally your thing, don't worry. You can go check this out on LinkedIn and Facebook. I'm also going to be playing this on my podcast, so you'll just be able to listen to it. I know yesterday my video was so pixelated. I am so sorry. I don't know. Today I'm filming from my iPhone. Hopefully that will fix the problem. If it doesn't, tomorrow I'll try it for my Android. I don't know what else to say. I hope this fixes the problem though, and it's not super pixelated like yesterday. But you can also listen on the podcast. So another option in case, I know, it doesn't look great right now. Hopefully this one does though. So reminder also that we are meeting every single day at 1 p.m. Pacific time and 5 p.m. Pacific time. The 5 p.m., the replay that we're doing is not additional information. We are just replaying this video tonight at 5. I will be in the comments interacting with you. So if you have questions, ask. I will be answering questions in the comments. I'm sorry, I get so distracted by the comments on this, and then once I get distracted, I really lose my train of thought. So right now, I don't actually have my comments on. Otherwise, I go off on tangents and we'll be here for 2 hours. But if you have questions, you want to interact with me or my team, we will all be in the comments tonight at 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern time. I'm actually traveling. I'm in Florida, so I'll be on the Eastern time with you guys, but I'm going to be there working with you, answering your questions. So hopefully if you miss any part of this or you want to just interact, join us for the replay. The other thing I want to remind you guys about is the word of the day. It's my most exciting fun part. Every one of these sessions is going to have a word of the day. At the end of the week, there will be a phrase that it creates. Every day, send your word to your concierge, and your concierge will put you in a drawing for a $50 Amazon gift card. If you don't have a concierge, make sure that you let us know here in the comments. Also, check your direct messages. Look at message requests. My girls have all been assigned. I have Mandy, Christina, Moira, Pam, and Lisa. Those are my employees. They're here in the comments now. Say hello, everybody. They are the ones who probably tagged you in this. But make sure you're connecting with them. I basically assigned them different people to make sure this is a much more personalized experience and we meet you where we're at. At our last count, we have well over 400 people who have signed up for this training between LinkedIn, YouTube, everywhere we are. And I cannot do 400 people by myself. So my team is there to help you. They do bring me questions, which reminds me, we will also be having a closed door Zoom question and answer on Tuesday. So if you want an opportunity to be in an office hour with me, which is something I do for my members all the time, join us, put that on your calendar. We'll be doing that Tuesday evening. Not today, Tuesday, next Tuesday. So make sure that you've got your workbook. And if you don't, again, put it in the comments or let your concierge know. But we will basically be working with you all week and send those words of the day every day. And also at the end of the week, you're going to want to send the phrase that we're creating. And I will tell you guys the word of the day today at the end of the session. So if you have your workbooks out, I am going to follow it a little bit better today. But I want to start, again, painting a picture of two different companies, right? Today, we're going to use Disney and Six Flags, okay? Again, I'm using my personal experiences, which I want you, as you're going out into the world during this series, I really want you to start looking at companies and asking yourself, who would you work for, right? Like yesterday, I told Dutch Bros versus Starbucks, and I'm going to really dive into you guys tomorrow on why Dutch Bros is amazing and they don't have a hard time hiring, and what I do to make sure I don't have a hard time hiring, right? And all of this is stuff I do, but I'm really going to dive into it tomorrow. So make sure that when we talk about the category of one, it is so vitally important if you're going to be recruiting the way Dutch Bros does, right? So Disney versus Six Flags. One year, I took my kids to Disneyland when we actually had Six Flags season passes. So we didn't live too far from Six Flags, so we literally went like every month. We went to Disney and it really struck me the difference in customer service, right? The experience, the friendliness, how they care. One time when we went to Six Flags, we have those free passes for a friend. So we literally brought both of my kids brought a friend, and then my husband and I brought somebody in, and well, we were scanning our tickets, and one of the agents, for some reason the free friend tickets weren't working, and he was like, just go, don't worry about it, just go. He didn't care. I mean, he made it very clear that he just did not care about his job, right? It also became apparent to me the same day. It really opened my eyes. And as a business coach and a business person, I'm always looking at these things, right? Just the difference in business models and how people put themselves out into the world. I notice how dirty Six Flags are. And you know, at the same time, like, I get it. They have thousands of people, just different things. The experience, the rides, right? The thrill rides, all of the things, right? So later that year when we went to Disneyland, it really stood out to me how much more attentive. And if you scan in and don't scan in, the supervisor comes, they figure it out. They don't just let you walk through the door at Disneyland. Disneyland is also very clean. When you consider the massive amount of people that are walking through that place, it is immaculate when you really put it into perspective. And the people are so thoughtful and nice. When you think about Disney's rides, they're really not that great, right? Like, they are amazing. I'm a Disney freak, so let me tell you, they're amazing, they're next level. But what I'm saying is strip away the theatrics, okay? Think about Space Mountain. Google and go onto YouTube and look up Space Mountain without the theatrics, okay? It is literally a slow roller coaster that just kind of goes through. It's like in this big area. And it's a really interesting video to watch. Without the theatrics, Disney is nothing, right? It's actually kind of slow, boring rides. Think of Pirates. You're just going on water super slow. What makes Disney amazing is the experience, right? They are creating an experience with every single thing, from the meals you eat to the minute you walk through their gates. It is a huge experience. Even if you're on the monorail to get there, huge experience, everything, right? There's actually something that's called Disney Depression that I found out. I was in Disney World in January, and there is literally something that's called Disney Depression. And it's the letdown of going home from a Disney trip. Okay, this is all very intentional. So if you are an employee, who would you rather work for, Disney or Six Flags? right? Which experience seems more appealing to you? So that's kind of what I want you to think about all week this week. Compare these companies. Why would you rather work for them than them? Why do you think they do better? Why can they charge 3 times as much, right? It's the experience that they're putting out. So you need to know what makes you stand out. What makes you Disney instead of Six Flags, right? Starbucks is an amazing brand, but I told you guys yesterday, Dutch Bros is so much better that I own stock in Dutch Bros. That's how much I think this company is amazing, okay? Why? What makes them Dutch versus Starbucks? Now let's take that another level forward. McDonald's sells coffee. I'm not a coffee drinker, but my husband used to tell me it's excellent coffee, just as good a quality. What is it that makes you spend 3 times, 4 times, and even 5 times the amount sometimes on a Starbucks coffee versus a McDonald's coffee, right? So knowing your strengths and really knowing how to capitalize those are so important. If you look at your workbook, I ask you the question, what is it that you do well? Really take some time to think about it. In my center, we prioritize high quality research-based standards, right? And we put the love of children first. For my child care centers, my vision is to make sure all children have the opportunity to attend a high quality research-based center, regardless of their socioeconomic status, right? The number one value that is most important to us is love. We are a loving environment, right? So I know that quality and love, because if you're going to be a high quality center, you have to give children love, right? So that is our superpower. I am very, very clear on that. So I make sure it is apparent in everything we do, right? We are a very loving and nurturing environment. Number one most important thing. As somebody from the psychology world, I understand the importance of brain development. So we put the children's brains first, above academics, above everything. I am putting the health of their brain and the trajectory of their brain development first, which means I prioritize love and I prioritize nurturing them above everything, right? And so there's a lot that goes into that, and that's what I'm known for. That is why I'm sought out around the country to counsel other centers to make them better, right? So what is it that you do? What is your superpower, right? We call it our queen bee role, and we really, that strength of ours is our queen, and just like all the bees in a beehive are going to work to create to protect that queen, we train our staff to protect ours. That's actually a concept from Mike Michalowicz, who does Profit First, right? It's something I've really learned and really latched onto. So many business coaches teach on this. They usually call it superpower. They call it a lot of different things. I love how Mike teaches it, because thinking of it as the queen, right, that we are all going to serve and protect. That is what we want to do. So know your strengths. What is it that makes you unique? What is it that makes you stand out from the crowd? I have some clients that are nature-based schools that really focus. They have nature-based classrooms. They really focus on natural environments. I'm working with a client that's opening a forest school. It is 100% going to take place in the forest. That's amazing. So environmentalism is what's really important to them, right? I have a green school that really teaches children about how to care for the world and earth, and just being an eco-friendly school and really raising the children up on that. That is their superpower. That is what they do. Lean into that stuff. What is it? Are you a Montessori, a Waldorf? I was talking to a colleague of mine on the airplane that was talking to me about the fact that she has looked into relocating over to where I am now, but there's no Waldorf schools, so she won't relocate here. Those are your superpowers, but let me say, you've got to go a little step further. If you are like Raggio, Montessori, Waldorf, you can't just put that out into the world. You have to put out, what is that? What does that mean? What does it mean to be a Waldorf? What does it mean to be a Montessori, right? Because there's a lot of people who are going to believe in your philosophies, and they're going to want that for their children, but they don't know the lingo. and the jargon. So you need to know that. And what does this have to do with recruiting, right? Well, don't worry, I will get to it. So knowing what your strengths, what is it that you do that makes you stand out? How are you changing the world? Let's think again about what I said earlier. The number one reason recruits choose jobs or stay with a job is because they know they're making a difference. So that superpower, your strength, how can you turn that into an opportunity? Okay, so as you're recruiting, your strength is your opportunity. You're going to put it out into the world that you want to align with these people who are believe in what you believe in, right? So a forest school or an eco-friendly school, they're going to attract people who also want to see more people educated on what the forest can bring for them, right? They're going to attract people who also want to see people take care of our environment more, who are really passionate about the environment. This may be somebody who didn't know they wanted to work in early childhood education. They don't always have to be teachers or know it, but they may have a passion for the forest and preserving the forest. And when you present the opportunity, like, do you want to help raise the next generation to love and care for our environment? Do you want to help educate the next generation? That is going to attract them, right? Right there. So that is why it is so important for you to know what your superpower or your why, what sets you apart, what do you stand for? Because when you do, that is your strength, and it creates this opportunity for you to recruit people that also believe in your strength, right? So that is where you really want to look at those opportunities. It's also important to know your weaknesses. Knowing your weakness is a very, very important thing. So what do we need to face up to? What do we need to admit? Are you not a high quality program? For you, if you've been watching me, you know to me the word daycare is a dirty word. I don't allow my staff to call us a daycare. We worked so hard to be a child care center, to be a preschool, right? And if you choose, that is okay. Let me tell you right now, do not take judgment from anybody on what you choose your business model to be. That is your choice. So you may disagree with me, and you may just want to be a child care center or a daycare that just babysits the children, right? There's nothing wrong with that. And there are people who will align with you. There are people who will say it is not a child care center's job to educate my children, right? And that's fine. If that is what they believe, they want their child to go to Head Start, you do the child care portion of it only, that is totally fine, right? Lean into that. Lean into what you believe in. Lean into staying in your lane, basically. And what you really believe in is what you're going to lean into. And there are going to be like-minded people that you'll start attracting when you put that into the world. But if you want to be seen as somebody who's an educational program, but you're not following developmentally appropriate practices, or you don't even know what that means, or if you're a 1 or 2 star center when it comes to quality ratings, and there's no chance of you getting accredited, then what do you need to do to fix that, right? If you want to be seen as high quality and education based, how do you need to step into that role? So it's very important to know your weaknesses in order to fix them, right? The other thing I want you to ask yourself is, again, have a reality check with yourself. Ask yourself, would I work for me? Would I want to work here? What does your building look like? What does it smell like? What does it feel like when you walk in, right? What are your teachers like? Are they all miserable? If you have a miserable staff, and I will be the first to tell you guys, it is not them. It's not them, and I'll tell you a story when I'm done with this phrase. But if your staff is miserable, then why would anyone want to come work for you, right? I was once upon a leader that walked into my center and thought they were all horrible. I literally wanted to fire every single person on my staff. Literally walked in one day and thought they all need to go, they're horrible. Why can't I hire better people? Everybody that works for me sucks. I just have this low quality staff because I can't afford to pay the right people. Well, we had a few series of events that happened that completely changed my mind. We actually had a child die, not in the program, but one of our children was very, very sick, ended up dying. We actually ended up having a couple more die over a course of time. And I did a staff meeting that was a total game changer for me. And this was one of my wake-up calls that I needed to learn leadership. Well, we did a staff meeting, and I actually asked my staff, tell me your dreams for the center. If you got to choose your classroom, you got to do whatever you want, what would you do? The ideas that came out of those women's mouths blew my mind. That staff meeting was a huge wake-up call for me. And I realized that day that it wasn't them that was the problem. It was me. It was my leadership. That's why I couldn't retain. That's why I couldn't attract, because I was a poor leader. So again, I set off on that journey to be a better business owner and a leader, a real leader that people would want to follow, right? And now I still have mostly the same team. Still have a ton of those girls that were there then, and now they step up and they're amazing. It was me, it wasn't them. So as I say this, I want you to really analyze, have a serious, heartfelt conversation with yourself and be honest. Nobody's looking, no judgment, right? And ask yourself, would you want to work for you? And if the answer is no, then why would anyone else? And you really have to step back and see, well, of course you're not attracting people if you wouldn't even want to work for your center, right? Is your center a place that people would take pride to work in? And if it's not, that's okay. There are solutions. My center was once upon a time that center, and now I've completely transformed it, right? So you can too. Now I have a center with a wait list of over 300 children. I'm building another center that's already going to be filled just based on my wait list, right? And I've owned several in the past, but it's just what happens when you step up. And when you step up, you do start attracting the right people, but you've got to know your weaknesses before you can fix them. The other thing too is you've got to take accountability. You cannot fix what's broken. We as ECE leaders, I have to say this to our entire industry. Our industry is broken. It is why we need a revolution. And we're not going to get that revolution until we take accountability for the industry standards that we created, right? We are always so upset that we're not seen as a profession, but we do that to ourselves because we're not ready to step into these roles, right? So you're going to overcome that by admitting your weaknesses, write them out, and come up with a plan on how you're going to address them. So know your threats as well. What are a threat? I don't want you to think of threats. Well, that is a threat, right? Your weaknesses are definitely a threat. But what is your competition doing? Really think about that. And I want you to think in terms of everybody, because when we're done with this series, you're going to see that the world is your oyster. Everybody is a possible recruit for you, right? So I want you to look at who is hiring right now, who isn't struggling, like the Dutch Bros of your world, okay? And look at them. That is your threat. They are the ones that you're competing, not the other center down the street. They are not our competition. Collaboration over competition when it comes to your center. Let me tell you that right now. It's a game changer, will free you mentally, and it will make you a better child care center. So who are your real threats, right? Who in the field is recruiting? Really study them, lean in. What are they doing? Why are people, and look at retention, because yes, a lot of people do look at the dollar signs, they want that high hourly wage, but what else are they doing if they're retaining and not just recruiting, right? What is it that they're offering that are keeping people? So look ahead. Always be proactive instead of reactive. It's easier to prevent a fire instead of putting them out, right? So what is stopping you? What are the obstacles, right? Really take some time. This workbook there's no concrete answers in here. These are things that you're going to have to search within yourself. If you're struggling, let your concierge know. Say, hey, I don't know. And maybe they can help you. They can put it in the comments. Join us this evening. Write in the comments when I have a chance to interact with you guys live. What is it? And maybe we can identify things together. So just really know those threats and understand the current job force, right? I want you guys to really think about what opportunities are you leaving on the table. Remember, this isn't just a job. It's not just a job. We do a ton. Now, I want you to put yourself in the shoes of job seekers, okay? And I want you to think about how you would traditionally open up for a job opening. We go on to Monster, Indeed, Facebook jobs, wherever, Craigslist, wherever, right? And we post, flip-flop child care center is now hiring for an infant teacher. You will be caring for children 0 to 1, right? Okay, so the job candidate is scrolling through, they see that. Next, they see Starbucks, they see Walmart, they see Amazon, they see all these different people. There's nothing that stands out. How are you going to stand out from the 1,000 other job postings that are on all these different websites? How are you going to compete with the Amazons of the world, right? That are paying double what we pay. How are you going to stand out? What is it that you're going to do? Well, the first thing we're going to do is completely change how we post for jobs and the terminology we use, right? So instead of saying things like, now hiring for an infant teacher, what if your tagline says, would you like a job where you are changing the world, right? And then inside, that's going to get somebody to click. Think about it. If you're looking at it as entry-level job where you can change the world. Or you could say something, let me see, I've got some examples in here really quick. Do you want a job that can change the world? Do you want a job to help form the human brain? Right? So this is where you're going to take those strengths that we have, and it can be our industry strengths as well, and lean into them when you're creating these job openings. It's got to be something that jumps out at people and it pulls at their heartstrings. On Friday, I'm going to talk to you guys really about understanding your vision and your values. That is going to make this part a lot easier. Okay, but today I really want you to rethink what it is that you're putting out into the world. Really think about what change are you creating and put it out there. For me, because I'm psychology based, I really do say things like, are you ready to help us change the world, right? And then in the body, I will say during the first 5 years of life, 90% of the human brain is being formed. The parts of your brain that forms executive brain functioning, which and I won't get this detailed, I'm just pulling this right now. I will really make this a lot more simple, but I'll say things like the part of your brain that helps you to cope, manage time, reason, and problem solve are being filled during the first 5 years of life. If we can help children to form this, we can literally change the course of the world, one child care center at a time. And then I'll say something like, join our team at Zooming Around Preschool. Schedule an appointment. I don't say anymore. I don't say what age group they're working with. I say, what is the impact that they're going to have on our community and the world, right? Sometimes the world is a little bit much. So when it is, I will put our community, right? Do you want to make a lasting impact on our community? Do you want to be the conduit of change? Those are the kind of words I'm going to use in order to really help people to just understand and see. But when you think in terms of people just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and there's 1,000 jobs they're scrolling through, how are we going to really get them to stop and notice us, right? That is the key. Tomorrow, I'm going to be talking about a different method I use as well, which is more recruiting than hiring, which is probably even more important than what I'm talking about today. It'll get you to the point that you don't have to advertise for jobs anymore. I will be the first to tell you, we really don't post for jobs. We actually had to last month for the first time in probably 5 years, right? but we did have plenty of job candidates come up, and we hired an amazing candidate from our job posting. But it's not something I do very often because I recruit, I don't hire. I don't believe in hiring. My team here at Child Care Business Professionals, all 5 of them were recruited. I saw something in them that I understood and I knew would work for my company, and I went and offered them a job. Some of them aren't from this field at all, and we will talk a lot more. I'm getting ahead of myself. I will talk a lot more in depth about that tomorrow. But just to recap what we went through today, I really want you to know and focus on today, what is it that your strengths are, right? What is your superpower? Where does that strength turn into opportunity? What are your weaknesses that might become your roadblock, your stumbling points? And what threats are you facing? Now, I'm hoping that you set aside an hour in your calendar for this training series. So one of the things, and what makes me different as a trainer, is whenever we do trainings, I want to make sure that you are doing the work. A training is useless if it ends up filed in your drawer. So I'm going to end this a little bit early, but I don't want you to go back to life as normal. If you watched my mindset training yesterday morning, I talked about being not just a student, but really taking action, right? If you want to see change, if you want to stop struggling, hiring and retaining staff, you're going to take this rest of this time I'm giving you right now to do the work. I always tell you to schedule an hour, right? But I'm always going to give you time to do the work. It's already on your calendar. Honor that time. Get your workbook out and do the work. You're going to need at least 20 minutes, at least, if not more. More would be so much better, because the more you give yourself, the more you're going to get. But don't just end this recording when I'm done. I know I'm doing it a little bit early. Don't just walk away and just be a student, because if you're just a student, you just wasted your time. Now is time to actually take action. Do the work. Do your workbook, right? Really do that soul searching. Take this extra 20 minutes I'm giving you to do the soul searching. And that might bring up some questions. So if it does, join us again this evening. And I'm sorry if you're on this evening for the first time, make sure you just send your concierge questions. I will be addressing questions and answers. So send them their questions, and I am happy to answer them if you missed this, or if this is your first time around watching it. But it is vitally important, you guys. I cannot even begin to tell you, if you're just a student, you will never see change, and you're just wasting your time. Taking action and becoming a doer is where you're really going to step into that role and see the results from the trainings that you take. So I'm going to give you guys the word of the day now. The word of the day today is children. Make sure you send that to your concierge. Again, if you don't have one, put it in the comments. We will be happy to give you a concierge. Again, your concierges are here just to help facilitate this, to make sure you get the most out of your time. Time is the most important asset to me, way more important than money. So I will never do anything that is a waste of your time. And remember to look in your inbox for a DM. They probably have already DM'd you, and it just may be waiting for approval on your end. Facebook is notorious for that. If you're watching through YouTube, make sure, just write in the comments. We will make sure we get you through email, whatever we need to do to connect with you. And again, we will be here again tomorrow, same time, for day 3, which we will talk about. Let's see, I'm sorry, I got to start. Don't wait for them to come, where I'll really go into depth about my recruiting model. I hope everybody found this useful, and you have a wonderful rest of your day.